Hello, everyone. Welcome to Meet the Shoe podcast. I'm Sade.
And I'm Nina.
And today we have Jhaleem on the set, and we would like to know your story. I'm looking at it. It's incredible. It's impressive from you, from starting from the bottom and to the top. How did you do this?
How you guys doing? Thanks, ladies, for having me on. I'm Jhaleem, author, entrepreneur, lifestyle coach, a whole bunch of other things.
Okay.
but but you know, God, number one, God's grace, because a lot of people have been in my situation and hadn't been able to get to this point. And so I know it's not just me alone. However, again, a little bit about me. Grew up in Newark, New Jersey, in the crack era, like a lot of people went through hardships, grew up in a household with a bunch of people strung out on drugs. Pretty much
Mhm.
every adult, except for my grandmother, strung out on drugs. I was the first grandchild, so I got a chance to see other things which people using drugs. So that was my life in the beginning. It was me going to school by day, at night hustling. It got me dealing with the law a lot as a child. Then going to college, I still stumbled into college, but I still was dealing with the law. Became a felon in college. Still managed to graduate, actually with great grades, but couldn't get a job. You got the debt, you got the student loan debt, but you can't get a job.
Yeah.
So, that was just a tough situation. And back in those days, entrepreneurship wasn't so prevalent. Everybody
Mhm.
wasn't an entrepreneur. You go to college, they're like, get a job. What do you mean?
Right.
And so it wasn't social media like, oh man, this is you should do that. No, it wasn't none of that. It was, straight up get a job. And so trying to figure that out was tough. But a few years, about 10 years ago, I came back to South Carolina where I went to college at because the economy was just so crazy with the housing situation. And that's why I became a felon. So again, I just took an $8 an hour job because I had a family and I had to do something, but
Yeah.
I had a camera and I was already shooting at the same time as taking this job. So I just kept doing what I was doing with the cameras, kept getting better. But I went to a TD Jakes conference in
Okay.
2014 down in Orlando, Florida, and he was putting out his book Instinct at the time. And part of it, he was just letting you know that a lot of you guys have instinct in you, letting you know that you're not where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be
Right.
somewhere else. And everybody that came with me, told me he was talking to me, and I was crying,
Yes.
everything like that, room full of people. And a couple months later, I went and got an office space. And 2 months after that, I left my job and never been back. And that's when I adopted my motto, I won't stop.
Okay, that was like a divine intervention. Like when you go to certain events or somebody that comes in your presence at that time, and then you just get like a light bulb just light up in your brain. Like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Because I know it's hard for a felon to even find a decent job. Even Target or Walmart slam the doors on felons. You know what I'm saying? So it's a good
Hmm.
thing now that social media is part of our lives. You can see other people, you know what I'm saying, doing it and becoming an entrepreneur, building their own businesses from the ground up, and just being persistent, and that's a good thing. Did you take any classes to be able to know how to use your camera, photography classes in college, or you just picked up the camera and kept it going?
Nah, honestly, in college, I did study business in college and I got a business
Okay.
degree. But I picked up my camera in '08 because I was having a child, I was having my daughter. And I just
Okay.
wanted to film and take pictures of her, everything she did. And
Yes.
then I did go to DC TV, which is like a PBS station in DC, for a hot minute. But that's when the economy went crazy. My wife
Right.
at the time, she lost her job on Capitol Hill. I had a little, piece of business. So whatever that was, I had to get rid of to make sure we were okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went back south because it's a whole lot more expensive in DC than it is in South Carolina.
Oh,
So
I can imagine.
yeah, so I was like, all right, we got to figure this thing out. But again, trying to get a job was tough. I still had this camera, and I'm like, look, I got to make this thing shake. And honestly, I started to sell it. I tried to sell it, and the person who bought it from me was my pastor at my church, and he gave it back to me like 2 weeks later.
Okay.
And I'm like, yo, you want the money back? He's like, nah, I'm good. I just want you to use this camera. So I'm like,
Amen.
I bet. And I
What
and I
kind of
just went
camera
hard.
was it?
Back in those days, it was a Canon 7D, and the
Okay.
7Ds was the truth back in those days, like
Right.
$2,000 camera. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna make it shake. So I started doing what I was doing with it. I didn't really have no formal training or nothing like that. I got my practice actually in church. I would be shooting at the church. Anything the church had, I shot it. I shot every Sunday. Any function it had, I shot it. And so I
Nice.
did that and hustled outside of the church. So I shot for my church for 3 years for free, but that was the greatest training I could have.
I bet.
Okay, can you go back and tell us what, for as far as $8 an hour, what did the job consist of? What made you to where that, you were like, no, I can't do this no more. You're
Oh,
accepting the eight. I mean, of course the hustling, but the $8 an hour, it had to be a moment that when you started doing it, especially by taking orders, and then you were coming from the street, you was used to a specific type of income. What made you say like, photography? I'm gonna.
nah, I had already first said I said photography from the door, but what happened was, and to be perfectly honest, I put in my first book. I was like, okay, let me go ahead and take these pictures. My wife was working a job, but she was pregnant with my second child at the time, and so I think that they let her go because she was a temp because they didn't want to make her a permanent employee while she about to have this baby.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, cool. All right, well, we got taxes coming, so we're gonna get about 4 or 5 thousand back. I got a few months on that because in South Carolina it's cheap, right? So I'm like, we got a few
Yeah.
months on that. So I'm like, all right, we can. Rent was like 700. I'm like, we got a few months. We pay up the rent. I'm literally at the flea market. I'm selling bootleg movies at the same time. I'm doing all type of stuff.
Okay.
Hustling.
True
And
hustler.
so when that happened, we get our taxes. We owe some money, and they didn't to give us our taxes. I'm like, oh my god, hold up. So she don't
Wow.
have a job. I don't have. We didn't get the taxes. Photography ain't coming fast enough, and these bootleg movies not moving fast enough. So now I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna try and get something, no matter what it is. And that still took a while. And I had a guy I went to college with. He had a car dealership at the time, and he couldn't hire me to sell cars, but he said, "Yo, I'll let you come with me to the auction to get cars," and he
Right.
paid me for doing that. And so
Wait,
I was
why couldn't he hire you to sell cars?
Right.
well, he could keep it all the way funky. It really wasn't his. He told me it was his car dealership,
Oh,
but
okay.
at the time I found out later it wasn't. But at the same time, I didn't trip off of it. He did what he could because he knew he couldn't convince this man to get me a job knowing my background. But
Okay.
Right.
he said, hey, he was responsible for going to go get the cars from the auction. So he would pay me whenever I went with him to do that. And it got to a point where it actually got good because it started rocking and rolling. By the next tax season, I was going to the auction myself with the crew, and everything was sweet. But it was an opportunity. But I still needed more money because my son was born, and the day he was born, when we brought him home from the hospital, the car was repossessed. The next morning, that same day they took the car. The next morning, there's the eviction notice on the door.
Oh,
So I'm
Oh,
like, I gotta do something. And I had already been in a space where I'm never going back to hustling. So
right.
I was like, man, I knew somebody that got me a little $8 an hour job at a hotel being a houseman. So I was just cleaning up at the Hampton Inn,
Yeah.
cleaning toilets, doing what I needed to do at that point. But I didn't stay at $8 an hour, because I was hustling even in there. I
Right.
sold pretty much everybody that I worked with a car. I sold bootleg
Okay.
movies to them too. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
right.
I did what I needed to do. I ended up when I left, I was I was on the front desk when I left,
Mhm.
and but that was the thing. It's funny too. My boss, he was like, look, he found out. He's like, man, hold up, how are you just a houseman? Because we did some other side work, and we had a conversation. He's like, give it to me straight, and I told him what it was. He's like, man, you don't need to be doing that. He said, I got something else for you. And then like a few weeks later, he put me on the front desk, so which was cool. Because it was a franchise. It wasn't one of the main stores. It was a franchise, Hampton Inn. So he
Okay.
understood and he saw my work ethic or what have you. So I just went ahead and did that until it was just I knew I can do way more than even when I left. I was making $14. But
Okay.
when that TD Jakes conference came, it was just a different story because again, I started a business. I started a commercial cleaning business in DC. DC is a whole lot more expensive than South Carolina. I just was a broken man. I was
Right.
in a situation where all the decisions I made seemed to not go my way. And so I started second guessing myself. So I was just trying to play the game. And as I put in my book, I was around a lot of people in church and other individuals that wasn't good for me. So
Mhm.
they took advantage of the fact that I always wanted to be a good person. Hustling was just how I got my money. I was never a bad person. I ain't never hurt nobody, none of that. I just was gifted at getting money.
Right.
What pushed you to start a book? What made you write your book and get it published? Like, what? Take us through that process.
Oh man, that was crazy. Another thing that happened at the TDJ's conference, a lady came up to me, prayed on me, and said I was gonna write a book. I didn't believe that. And I was 14. So
Huh.
my photography business took off after a while. I went and got my office that same year, left my job. It was a little tough for the first couple months, but
Mhm.
then my wife lost her job again that summer. And so that's when
Hmm.
I went hard in the paint, you know what I mean? Because it was just a whole different thing. And in South Carolina, you guys probably read about when the people got killed in Charleston at the church.
Yes.
Yeah, that was tremendous to my career because that happened. Then the flag happened. They was bringing down the flag. So I was the photographer who they hired to take photos of a lot of places around the state because it was like a one SC, one community thing, trying to get
Mhm.
everybody riled up and coming back together, as a state. And so I was
Wow.
hired to do that. And then I started working with the mayor of the city of Columbia. And so I kind of got a lot of notoriety. Everything he was doing was my photos in the newspaper and things of that nature. So, and then we
Okay.
had a 1,000-year flood too, all in that same year. So I was doing that work as well. So my camera was everywhere that year. So the next year I kind of just went off the rails, started working with government contracting, doing that stuff with the camera, worked with Amtrak, started getting a whole lot of business in that situation. So
Okay.
the biggest thing was the government contracting, what made me get to the book because they started using me as like the poster child. They started saying, all right, well, we this is how we help minorities get business. And so I was
Mhm.
around different parts of South Carolina, being at these functions, speaking, talking about how my business is and how the city, the state, and the county was helping me get business. But they were saying
Mhm.
this for minorities, but we weren't there. So I got the contract. I'm filming and shooting, me and my crew, but they're not there. So I saw that need and I created the company I Won't Starve at that time. And
Okay.
so what I did was I partnered with the government, local, state, and federal government to bring those people, bring minorities there so they could actually get that information that they wasn't getting at these functions that they were hiring me to shoot. And so through I Won't Starve,
Okay.
we would have major events and we would have like 200 people in the room and we'll be able to have them be able to talk to these people in the city, the county, the state, where they otherwise wouldn't have been able to get with them. So they was able to get contract and get certified to do business with the government through our efforts. And we work with over 600 businesses.
Mm.
Wow. How many
That-
jobs have you provided with, your organization? How many people has went through it successfully and not returned? How did you
What
change the recidivism rate?
Oh well, from a position like with businesses, we've helped 600 businesses get certified. Now, how
Okay.
many jobs that they were able to create for people by the contracts they got, I don't know those numbers, but
Okay.
Mhm.
a good amount of those guys and women had been in prison or had felonies, you know, and then other ones was just minorities that didn't know that we didn't have the information. A lot of times we in the space because we don't know. We
Right.
just misinformed or we just don't have any information, period. I didn't
Mhm.
have the information. A good brother named Angelo McBride, who worked for the city of Columbia at the time, saw something in me. And he saw me at every function hustling. And he was like, let me talk to you about something.
Mhm.
And he told me about getting certified. And I just listened to everything he said do. And I even told him, I came to him clean. I was like, look, I got a record. He was like, don't even worry about that. They ain't gonna ask you nothing about that. And he said, he's like, you
Yeah.
not applying for no job. You a contractor. And
Right.
literally, nobody never asked me about my record. None of these places. I work with the military. I work with Save the Children Foundation. Literally, these are the only people
That's
that
it.
ever background me, and that was just because they want to make sure you never mess with any kids. But
Right.
other than that, I've never been background by the military, by the NBA, WNBA, NFL. None of those places that I've worked with, nobody ever asked me for my background.
That's good.
Amen. Amen.
So what is the name of your book and what's the content? What is it? What your book is about?
My book, get my book for me real fast. I Won't Starve. I got three of them. My first one is I Won't Starve, of course. That's about my life. Again, growing up in North New Jersey, just being in a space where it was rough up there. My grandmother was trying to figure it out. All her kids, except for one, she has 8 children. All her kids, except for one, was strung out on drugs, hard drugs. Heroin, crack. and my mom was one of them. You know, my mom left at 11. She went with a guy, and never came back until years later.
Oh
And it was
wow.
just rough. So I saw a lot of drugs. I saw a lot of. One second, go get it out. Yeah. She's going to get my book from me.
Okay.
I
Okay.
saw, I saw a lot of drugs being used, but you know, back in the day, the rap songs wasn't telling us to use drugs. We was learning how to sell them. And
Right.
so I was good
Yes.
at basketball. I played ball, but I needed my money because again, we was in a house, 3-bedroom house with 15 people. When I
Oh,
came
Whoa.
home from trying to be an overachiever playing basketball, wasn't no food left. Wasn't no pork
right.
chop,
No.
wasn't no chicken, none of that. So I had to figure out what I was going to do. And so I would take some weed to school, sell that, you know, then next, you know, going on the block. And it just mounted. So by the time my senior year came, that was my thing. I was that guy, you know. So this is my first baby right here. I Won't Starve.
Okay.
Oh. And what year did you put that out?
19. So the funny thing is, I opened I Won't Starve in 17, and everybody I
Uh-huh.
was speaking because I did not want nobody to tell me I wasn't good enough for them to pay me to speak. So my first event was a paid event. I said, look, come
Oh,
here, pay this amount of money, and I spoke. And it was like, well, you speaking, you need a book. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm speaking without a book. But it kept talking about that. And so I finally did write the book, which was the best thing that could have happened to me business wise because it freed me from all of the nonsense I went through. All of the,
right.
you know, I felt the way about my mom, felt the way about
Yep.
my in-laws, felt the way about church, felt the way about a lot of stuff. And I got it all out, not from a tabloid perspective, because I ain't that type of person, but
Right.
I tell my story. You know, a lot of people say, oh, I'm telling my truth, but it's everybody else's business. That wasn't me. It's like, it's my story, what I went through, but I got through it. So I was happy that I was able to write the book.
Now,
Right.
did you on that first book, did you get any like your in-laws, your family? What was what did the critics say? Because that always happens. What did they
No,
have to
actually,
say
no.
about? Did they say like, did you tell their business? You know how in black families it's like you cannot tell business. What goes on in the house stays in the house. You know that type of stigma, especially since you grew up in a house of 15.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. Not, I mean, for the most part, I didn't tell nobody's business. Again, I told the truth. I didn't say, "Oh, my uncle so and so was doing this." It was
Right.
just 7 out of my grandmother's 8 children were strung on drugs. Now, I'll say about 6 of the 7 is not no more. So that's good. Thank God. You know
Right,
what I'm
right,
saying?
right.
So,
Amen.
but
Amen.
one of them
Yes.
we lost. You know, we lost to it. You know, my youngest
Mhm.
aunt, who was like my sister, we lost her to it. And you know, but that was that. But you know, I didn't say nothing specifically about nobody. As far as my in-laws, you know, I didn't tell their business. I told my interactions and
Right.
things that happened. If people felt the way about it, that was them. But
Mhm.
nobody not coming at me. I don't feel those type of pressure. They're not coming at me about nothing like that. You know,
Okay.
like they knew what it
Right.
was.
That's good. That's
Oh,
good.
that's good. And you said you got 3.
3 books.
Yeah, so you know, I did I Won't Starve, and I was already I was bit by the bug after I Won't Starve was done. So and I understood I was doing trainings. As I said, I started speaking at I Won't Starve experiences, straight up training that I did, just teaching them about entrepreneurship, but then having the partnership with the government, having those people there, those
Oh, nice.
resources there for them to say, hey, I can get with the government entities and actually get you starting a
Okay.
business, it's tough to get sure money. And so me
Right.
having the government entities as partners, they were able to get right there, have enough years in business. And sometimes you need a year. They'll teach them how to use their work experience or whatever to get certifications because a lot of people don't know that. They might say, oh, you need 3 years. But if you got 3 years in work experience doing the same thing you trying to do with the government, you can still use that, especially in local
Oh,
government, to get a certification. But they
okay.
were there learning that information at the time. So
Okay.
I knew I was going to, write a book about my trainings, but COVID
Hmm.
was coming, so it was right on time. So when I put my book out, You
Hmm.
Won't Starve, which is my training manual, Key Principles of Entrepreneur Development,
Okay.
it
Okay.
was right on time because I couldn't go nowhere and train nobody, so people was able to get my book.
Nice.
Okay.
I said I was doing these classes anyway for all across the state, and so
Oh.
I started, I said I'm gonna put this in a book because I got bit by the bug once I finished the first one, and it kind of timed perfectly when COVID happened. Even though I
Hmm.
started traveling because I traveled all over the place with the first book, And I was
Right.
like, all right, well, let me go ahead and put this book, this one here, this training manual to go right to it. You won't start basically teaching other people so they don't have to go through the roadblocks I went through, not just
Right.
from a background. You need information. Nobody told me. I stumbled through it. And so I was trying to help people get right to the source immediately.
Yeah.
And so when COVID happened, it was kind of perfect for me because I couldn't go nowhere. So I could still get them my book. So that
Right.
worked out tremendously for me, creating this key principles to entrepreneur development. And I focused on 3 different generations, which is the Gen Zers, kids that's in college right now, the millennials, and the baby boomers.
Okay.
Because we focus on opportunity. And again, this is for me. In college, nobody taught me about entrepreneurship. Even though people knew I was a felon, knew I probably was going to have a hard time, they still was trying to send me through that. And my first time, I got hired for 3 straight jobs, less than 90 days out of college, and they let me go immediately once my background came back. That's traumatizing.
It is.
And
Yeah.
so people were still trying to shove me into jobs, and I'm like, they wasn't telling me about this other opportunity. And so I wanted to give kids that opportunity, especially Black kids, because if you don't show signs of being an engineer or whatever, they're trying to tell you you got to be a garbage man, or you need to do this, or you need to do that. And if you have gifts or something that you're gifted at, let me give you this information right here so that you can start your own business if need be.
Right.
Millennials, a lot of us, again, we've made these decisions and we 10 years into that decision and we realized that it was a mistake. Oh, let me show you how to pivot out of that mistake.
Right.
Let me show you how to get to that point. And for our baby boomers who are retiring, you spent your 30 years, nobody knows more than you in that
Right.
space, but you don't know how to do it for yourself.
Right.
So with all that gift, all that talent, you might be working at Walmart as a greeter,
Right.
and not because you want to, because if you want to salute to you, but if you think that that's the only thing you got, you was probably running the office for 30 years, making 6 figures. But you don't know, nobody's taught you or told you how to pivot and shift and use that money for yourself. Like going to the same people that hired you for 30 years or go to their competitor and get a consultant space job for 6 figures,
Okay.
underneath your LLC, things of
Yes.
that nature. So nobody talks like that. And so we've been able to do that through this book and actually go ahead and make it plain for them.
Yes. And what's the third book about?
My third baby is morning motivation. I've been doing these videos on social media for like the last 2 years in the morning, just
Okay.
called morning motivation. So at the time, I didn't know I was going to keep it going. So I did about 150 days straight. And we're still going strong now. But I said, I'm going to put it in the book because I don't know if I'm going to keep doing this. And so
Okay.
I took the best 10, I ended up throwing 11 in there that I really felt in me, and it was just amazing. So I put those principles in that book for people because we were just getting bad information. Everybody was saying throw 2020 out, forget about this, forget about that, and I'm like, look, this is not our first crisis, and it's not going to be our last crisis.
No.
So how do we find a way to stay consistently motivated no matter what the crisis is? And so
Right.
that's why we titled the book Morning Motivation, Consistent Encouragement Through a Crisis, because we have 11 principles in here that can go through any crisis. And all of it's about me, things I went through when, as I said, I knew I was better than that. But I have a topic in here, a chapter in here where we say you don't have to create another thing. Because a lot of time when the people around you are not supporting you or the people around you are not jumping as fast as you think they should jump at your amazing idea, you think you need to do something different.
Right.
You need to try something else. And it's not that, because I've come to different places and they bounced off the wall about what I'm talking about. So it wasn't me, it was y'all. You know what I'm saying? And so once I stopped changing and switching up and trying to do other things because of other people, I was able to grow in a different space.
You said a mouthful because me and Danina always talking about why ain't nobody supporting us that's close to us, and we're like thinking we should do this and pivot a different way, and nope, we're gonna stay the same. Somebody else love what we're doing. People we don't know like what we're doing, so we're gonna keep it going because whoever's close to us that they don't support us, they didn't want losing. They didn't want missed out.
Right.
So hey,
it's gonna be very hard for people to get support from people who saw you at the bottom.
yeah,
And that's just a fact. I don't even care if that's your spouse. It's
yeah,
very, very tough for them to support you or to give you, like, especially let's think of us men, right? We got a woman like that. She know when all the bodies are buried. She know everything about you that nobody else don't. And so what happens was we might get mad at her when everybody looking at you as a king and she looking at you like you went to bed last night. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you see what I'm saying? And that's the same thing like your brother or sister. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You're like, man, that's just Jay. Ain't nobody. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it takes time for that to connect with them. It might have to be something later down the line, like, yo, I knew it was real when this, like, yo, I was doing this for 15 years. You just
Right.
realizing it. But for
Hello.
them, it takes something different. It's very, very hard for people who saw you at the bottom to support you. You know what I mean? And
Right.
that was something I had to get okay with. I had a mentor, a guy told me something about his spouse. He was like, man, I'm like, yo, we about to leave. I'm leaving this job. I'm doing this. And his wife wouldn't leave her job. And he was like, I was pissed at her. She was like, that's your dream, not mine.
Yeah.
But now they run his business together. But it took us some years. He's like, she had to come out when she was ready. And as long as you had that understanding, you're not gonna lose your spouse or lose your friends. Look, do your own thing. If you gotta go
Right.
away, then do it fine. But don't let that mess you up because you're gonna regret it if you leave it alone and you're gonna hate them for it. So if
Yeah.
you believe that strongly in it, go away, go be around different people. Don't have conversation with them about what you're doing. Don't do any of that. Keep them completely away from what you're doing so that you can grow.
Right. Did they, Nina? You told me that, didn't you? Ooh, speak.
Oh my God. Look, I'm like, how did you get to that space though? I need you to help me because I'm saying we have been doing this, right? I had just showed Sade didn't even realize how long we've been manifesting the podcast. Our first upload was 2016. Then we didn't get
Wow.
serious about it until the weekend that Nipsey Hussle got killed. That's when we did
Wow.
our very first interview, right?
Right.
That day, that during that time when we was finding out that he passed away, right? That's when we was in New Orleans at the hair show and we did our first interview.
First interview. Yeah.
Now, it's been really sad that, it kind of gets trying from the both of us that you don't get that support. Like we don't get
Yeah.
that support. We're like, y'all, we're on at 6 o'clock every single Wednesday. We're on, and y'all's not on Facebook or YouTube. It's like it's really frustrating. It really jugs at us. But guess what? Now we're just like, we'll just talk, and eventually people will start, and they do.
Yeah, you got to move around. You got to get away from them people. I mean, I was very successful in South Carolina. Now I live in Vegas, and people still ask me, "Why would you leave?" You know, again, I've done all that things I've done. Got a 3,000 square foot office space, got property, things of that nature. Why would you leave? Why? Because I'm supposed to be higher. And if I stay
Right,
around these people, I'm not going to grow higher. They only see
Right.
me as here. When I
right,
came out here, I mean, I'm walking in the mall and people breaking their necks want to know about I Won't Starve is. I'm there. They just like, oh, that's I Won't Starve. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? So it's a
right,
different situation. I
Yeah.
go out to Long Beach, California, and I'm speaking. They're looking at me like I'm crazy talking about this government stuff in Long Beach. Like they're like,
right,
man, I ain't hearing nothing about that. Come back. You know,
Right.
I get a contract
right,
in San Diego. They like, yeah, you the guy for us. I'm like, oh man, they ain't treat me like that. Then you know what I mean. So
Right.
you got to grow. You got to know when to make that move because again, it's not that they don't love you. They just see you as you. And they're like, man, I can pull up to her house. I can call her phone. You know what I'm
right,
Right.
saying? You got to kind of
yeah,
create that distance from the people who I mean, look, what you saying, yeah, about, I got friends who know about that and still ain't jumping the business. Still ain't making
right,
moves. Still ain't doing nothing different. You know what I'm saying? Because, hey, it's like that's just coming from Jay. You know, but
Right.
right,
if somebody else come and tell them it's gonna be the grand revelation, like,
All
man, I
right.
got new news, and you kind of get yourself in a situation where you're not aware. I've unfollowed friends on social media. I still love them, but
Yeah.
I don't want to see you celebrate nobody else's situation. You're not celebrating mine, and that's
Right.
okay. That's
right,
okay. Like I'm
Yeah.
cool with you, but I'm not friends with you. I don't want to see that, and I control that. So you
right,
got my number. Call me. You know what I mean. You
right,
know where I stay. Call me, but I'm not. I don't have to look at you saying I'm with this person celebrating their grand opening. I'm like, I got 3 books. I ain't see you at the joint. You know what I'm saying?
right,
Hello.
right,
So, and you don't have to, just get away from that stuff. I mean, these people go crazy about the stuff that I do in different places than where it was created at. So, at the end of the day, I'm cool with that.
right.
Mhm.
How does like your family when you did move away, how did they accept like your growth? Do you get you think you're better than, or, you forgot about us? And, is that any of the conversation when you go back to the family reunions and things?
No, not no more. Back in the day, it was like that, I mean, because, when you leave New Jersey, especially where we from, you automatically on. The funny thing is most of the people got Section 8, they don't have cars, or if they do got a car, it's a hoopty. They're not paying no insurance, they're not paying car notes, they're not paying real rent. And like we were struggling, like actually living real life. And then me hustling. So they really thought like it was that thing because I come back home with a nice car and everything like that. But like, yo, I was facing 10 years in prison. I got this going on. I got that. Like, yo, and I can't call y'all because y'all like, he gonna be all right. See, when you up, they don't never think you gonna ever be down. You know what I'm saying? So nobody checking on you. They just like, oh, he'll be all right. He'll come through. And so now I'm getting a lot more of, hey, how you doing? Because I went through, went from the drug thing to, okay, I'm going to do it this way. But then I went back down again, and I didn't have to go back to drugs to come back up. It was just now I'm getting skills, becoming a photographer, becoming a certified coach, becoming a certified trainer, doing all the things I'm supposed to do, making investments and things like that. I've grown the right way, as everybody would say. Everybody has their way, but I've grown the right way. And some of my family members, especially the younger ones, I'm happy me and my younger cousins are really connected like that. Right. My grandmother got 20-something grandchildren. So it's a different phase of us. I'm the oldest. So, like the ones at my age and my bracket, we cool, but we all was separated like that.
Okay.
That was our parents that was strung out on drugs. That was, that's that thing. It was the ones that our aunts and uncles started having after they got clean. That's now like in their late 20s and stuff like that are like, yo, because put me on. I'm trying to do this business thing. Okay. And calling me for information. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's all love, but we ain't learn that type of thing. All we got together for food and fights. So and that was it.
Food and fights.
That's
good.
Right.
Oh, God.
So what do you have coming? What do you have coming for future? What are you trying to do future wise for, everything that you've helped?
Oh man,
community.
Just got to Vegas some months ago, so I'm enjoying that again.
Oh, so you just moved to Vegas?
Yep, in November.
Oh wow, okay.
Now, how is that? How was that? Because you're East Coast, like, so how was that moving? Like, you're closer to us a little bit. You're a little bit closer to where we are.
Where are you guys?
In Minnesota.
Oh wow, there's a lot of people from Minnesota here. I
love it. I got family there.
Yeah, I love it. We I always wanted to live in California.
Okay.
I always wanted to live in California. So I would leave and go away to California on my own. LA, San Francisco. I got friends and family there, homeboys from home that's there. So I would go there on my own little trip. But it's a little bit too expensive for me to live the way I want to live and accustomed to how my kids live. So I'm like, I'm going to do Vegas and then I'm going to pop in and out because I'm contracted with a company out of San Diego. My publicist in LA. So, I pop in and out when I need to. I still have my spot in South Carolina. I still have my office space there. So I'll be there next week. I'm back and forth. But yeah, it was great, man. I love it. It's a different change of pace. The reception was well when I got here. I'm just excited. I'm doing my first workshop. The I Won't Starve Experience, my 5-year anniversary. As I said, I started in 2017. So we're doing the I Won't Starve Experience September 24th here in Vegas. The entrepreneur explosion is what we're calling it.
Okay.
Because we're right on the heels of, people leaving their jobs by the millions. And this has never happened before, voluntarily leaving jobs, not, people left their job, but not voluntarily like they're doing now. So, we want to make sure people are doing it the right way and our way, especially for our minorities. People are talking about you need $10,000, $50,000, but we don't got people giving us that type of money.
No,
so how do you talk to that person, you know what I'm saying, that just got, like they say, the dollar in the dream. But I get a dollar in the skill and how you manifest that skill. Because I had nothing but that camera. And, I was able to do what I needed to do with it. And I, teach people how to do it. So we're going to have some celebrity speakers there this time. And we're just going to have a blast in Vegas. It's going to be September 24th.
Let us know. We'll come.
Yes, send us your information.
Yeah, we're going to see the information. We're going to have a blast. This will be the first one we're doing since COVID in person. We did a couple virtual ones, but this will be our 7th one. But we can't wait, to do this thing, in person. And like I said, Vegas has been welcoming what we're doing. Biggest Vegas is it don't have a lot of stuff that I had in South Carolina.
No.
So a lot of the programs that we had for entrepreneurs is not available here. So I'm looking forward to via my nonprofit, I Won't Starve Academy. And we said we're here to help Black entrepreneurs. I'll help everybody else too, but first priority is my people, because one of the problems that we have is that we give our money to other ethnicities and they don't have to give anything back.
Right.
So via my nonprofit, I'm getting these people to pay us to teach my people for free. So this is the type of things we're doing with I Won't Starve Academy. So we got classes, and we got self-employment summits coming up, perfect partnership summit coming up, that's teaching people again how to work with the government directly and create partnerships, strategic partnerships with the government, not just get contracts or get certified, because if you can get certified and never get a job.
Okay. So what kind of government jobs, far as, explain more in depth, like what kind of jobs they can get with the government?
Oh man, government pays for everything. So, like a lot of times when you start your business, you need guaranteed income, and the government can provide that. Once you get a contract with them, sometimes you have a 2-3 year contract, and then they can have 2 re-ups. So say you got a 3-year contract, it could turn into a 9-year contract. But teaching you how to bid for that contract, teaching you for people who got, like, a lot of times we don't have major companies. So if you do photography, well, the federal government spends $500 million a year on photography. People don't know that, right?
Wow.
So the local, federal, state government pay for catering. So let's just say, for the sake of saying, somebody got a construction contract building a museum. Yeah, I bet you go buy that contract, there's a food truck there, maybe 3 of them. You know what I'm saying? So if you got a food truck through the government, that's guaranteed bread. People are just coming up there to get the food. They don't got to pay you. You're not posted up there. No, the people just ordering what they want, and you sending the invoice to the government, and they paying for what they order. You know what I'm saying? So
you told me a whole mouthful.
That's what I'm saying. So the stuff that we do, the smaller businesses that we do, the government still pays for those. And then you can also get situations where you don't have to bid. So if you got some depending upon what office, under 5,000, under 10,000, under 25,000, you don't have to do a bid for it. They can just say, I want your services, and get that bag. So if you got them consistently doing that for you, you rocking and rolling. The airport.
How would a felon go about doing that? What would
you
be
ain't
their
gotta tell
first
them you're a
step?
felon, because they ain't gonna ask you. They ain't gonna ask you you're a felon. That's the whole thing. I did all that without being a felon. I mean, with being a felon. You know what I'm saying? So I went in there.
Building out an LLC or S corp business, and that's what they're looking at the business.
You get your LLC, and you show that you've been in business. Usually they say a year, but if you have the skill set, like on a job, you can actually show them, hey, well, I've been doing this for more than 3 years, and then they'll go ahead and start working on the process for you. And again, if it's a non-bid scenario, then you don't really got to worry about that. They'll work with you. The certification is for them, not for you. You get them certification, they put their numbers up. They say they got X amount of minority businesses, what have you. All of them have quotas. What I understood was that they wasn't meeting those quotas.
Right.
And so I understood that I can get the minorities you need. So I need you to partner with me. And they actually paid me for that. They paid I Won't Starve for that, for us to be, for the privilege of being at our function. So we did those scenarios, and we put people on your cleaning businesses. Those are $1 million contracts with the right companies. Anything you can think of, the government is paying for. They want jackets and clothes just like you. They want cars. City government, the cops get their cars from somewhere. So if you're a dealer that can provide that, you get a contract with them. So people that's in cars, they might not want to do that. No, if you're a wholesaler, you might want to work with them and get a contract. So every so often, you got the city, the fire department, everybody, all their caprices is coming from you. You know what I'm saying?
So what do? They just go, a person that has a business, they just go to the local, to the government center or to NAACP, building.
Nah. You can go to the you got SBA, that's federal. You got DOT, that's federal. Then you might have your city office. You can go there. If you go on your city website, it should say do business with the city. Or say how go on your web, go on thing and say what city y'all in?
Well, I'm in St. Paul now, but our business is
Okay.
mostly ran in Minneapolis.
Okay, so you say doing business with the city of Minneapolis, right?
Uh-huh.
Pull it up. They'll give you all the information. The best thing to do is attend one of their functions. They usually have functions to tell you the informational functions, and then
Yeah.
they'll tell you what they want. Matchmaker functions. Basically, those are things where they'll let you go sit with the city, the fire department, sit with the police
Yeah.
department, and other different departments in the city, and they'll tell you the things they want, what they need from you. Go through the certification process. If they require it, boom, now you in there. Now the job is to make sure them people know you. I don't care if you got to send them breakfast, send them some
Yeah.
muffins, donuts, whatever, because they're
Right,
not entrepreneurs, so they're not going to look for you.
Right.
right,
They're going to make a phone call to the person that they know. So if they
right.
know you, they're gonna hit you up. They're gonna be like, "Hey, come on, let's do this." You know what I mean? And then the rest is history. But if they don't know you, they're gonna call a person that they know, and that's from
Right.
Okay,
the top to the bottom. Except for federal, federal is a lot more clean, but local and state, it go off of who they know.
okay.
Okay. Mm.
Yeah. So you gonna stay? You're gonna stay in Vegas. You're already got your feet planted in your hometown. You're in your second state city. So now, where in the next 5 years, where are you branching off to?
Oh, a full time investor. By next year, actually, I that was my 5 year plan in 2018 to be a full time investor by December 31st, 2023.
Okay.
And it's because I ran the rat race of entrepreneurship for
Hmm.
years. I've been hustling since I was 13. I've been putting my money up, doing what I needed to do, trying to figure it out. Now it's about investing and giving other people opportunities.
Hmm.
And being with my kids. My daughter, she has 2 books right now
There
Okay.
you
that she already
go.
put out, and she's finishing up her third one of her
Okay.
series. She's
How
a
old
Oh,
is she?
singer, 13.
Okay.
oh,
All
nice.
Yeah,
right.
she's 13, and
Mhm.
she just got into the high school of her choice, so she'll be able to. She was in the performance arts high school for singing. She had to do her whole little audition CD and all that other stuff for that. They accepted her, and she's a gifted swimmer, so she'll be able to do both of those. By the
Hmm.
time she's out of school, I'm not working. I'm not running a rat race for nobody. And then my son he's 5 years younger than her. He'll be going to high school, and so I'm out all my time for them. And
Right.
That's right.
so my businesses should pay themselves. So I'm gonna always write books. I got another book coming out, next year. We Won't Starve. That's the power of collaboration. That's my next book. So I'm always gonna do that. I love it. That brought me back to who I was and myself, and that's my personal conversation with myself. I tell people writing my books is an uninterrupted conversation with myself.
Hmm.
So
Right.
I love it. So I'm never gonna stop doing that.
That's
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Okay, and so we have this segment to where you've been home for a while and you've dealt with I'm pretty sure some testy people, right?
Uh-huh.
So we would like to know what has happened since you've been home in your path that you're like somebody tried to try you, right? They had you messed up.
Now,
And you're
now
like, "Oh, I'm not going to go back to prison. I'm gonna take the high road." So
Right.
it's like it's called meet the shoe moment, right? It's a shoe
oh,
moment that you're like, no, I'm not going to sit back in jail. Like you was like just right there,
Right
almost
there.
there.
Almost.
well, to be honest with you, the blessing is I never had to sit down. I had some real
Okay.
dudes that was with me that never told.
Okay.
And I got one of my partners is coming home soon. He just did 16 on a
Hmm.
20-year bid. And, we just had soldiers. I did sit in the house for a while, waiting on trial and everything like that. But, all I had was 5 years probation, and we had some money. But I always got tested. One of the biggest places was in church.
Okay.
Everybody tell you to go to
Wow.
church. And I went to church, and church ain't really like that. You know what I'm saying? When you start doing the business of church, oh, Joker's gonna cuss you out just like somebody on the corner.
Right.
Ooh.
And I'm like, yo, dig, right? Dig that. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, I actually almost got into it a couple times. I mean, to the point where my last time in church actually was that, like, as like being a member of a church, like, yeah,
Right.
I really like you can see the picture of me on one side and my best friend, he's like a brother to me, had me over here and
Oh
like,
wow.
yo, and everybody was because my shirt was off and everything because they
No.
just went there. I mean, because people, I don't know, it's just a different situation,
Right.
in church, man. People, it's a different ball game in church, man. I don't know. I might do a movie or a book on that.
You got to write a book
On
just on
church.
church folks.
It's a different and we got to tell the truth. Like, yo, it's some
Right.
amazing things that happen in church. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, me learning to read the Bible drew me closer to God and further away from church. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because the people wasn't like the people in the Bible. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
This ain't that. They was like some of them, but the bad ones, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the ones who killed Jesus. Like, it's those people in the church, and they're alive and well today, not just 2,000 years ago. So when you see that, I'm like, nah, we ain't doing that. I'm not indoctrinating my kids on weakness because they preach a lot of weakness. You know what I'm saying? Just take whatever you got and be happy with it. Nah, we not doing that because the God I saw in the book didn't say that.
Right.
He said keep going to get what your prize is. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I don't need to die to get my prize. There's a prize here. And then Deuteronomy 18:8 says, you have I'll give you everything that you need to get wealth. All I ask you to do is just give me the props. And that's my paraphrasing. Give me props to say who you got it from. You know what I'm saying? And so with everything, the first thing I said, God, because that's where I got that from.
Right.
Now it's me, it's my power that's been bestowed in me to go get what I need to go get. And we don't teach that enough in black churches. We don't teach that triumphantness. I ain't saying everybody gotta be rich, but we ain't weak. We kings, we queens, we ain't weak, we ain't submissive, we don't gotta be all of that. And I'm raising children, so I know enough of the word. I'm still in it. I'm a priesthood holder in my own house, so my kids understand what time it is without having to be that weakness being indoctrinated. And then again, they act like people on the street sometimes. So you got to remember where you are. So I got away from that. That was that place where I was like, yo, why am I even going through this at a church? It is what it is, man.
Yeah. They regular people. They the same.
Yes, they are
Sometimes
the
worse.
same,
A lot of them worse. A lot of them worse.
Yeah.
Yes, they're
My
usually running
lifetime,
from something.
my lifetime, I'm cool with the people because the people who was like me, who had backgrounds, and again, it was harder for me. Like my bros that came home got jobs immediately, but because I was in college when it happened, and then I ended up getting a degree, it was a different level of expectation. And I didn't have the program to pipeline me into a job. You know what I mean? It was like, yo, get the $60,000-$70,000 job. Nah, they ain't giving me that.
Right.
Type of thing. So the brothers who I knew and the sisters who I met in church that was on that, we was on the same wavelength. It was the regular people who was acting like a damn fool. I'm like, really? And you got the cloth on and you acting like that. Like you really on one. You ready to fight people over your man. You blah, 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 blah. You popping off. I'm like, this ain't Kansas no more. You know what I mean? That type of thing. So I was good on that. And I'm super good on that.
Yes.
Yes.
We want to
let the people know where, every single thing that you got coming up. How they can reach out to you, how they can get those books.
My book babies, I call them that because it took 9 months for the first one. So
right.
My book babies, they're on Amazon or anywhere books are sold, Walmart, of course, my website. My books are all around. www.jhaleem.com is my website. www.iwon'tstarve.com is my other website. And then iwon'tstarveacademy.org is the nonprofit. Of course, like I said, we're helping out Black entrepreneurs get where they need to get to without having to spend money. Because again, we got to teach these people to give us money that we don't have to give back. That's how we're going to give up, because we giving the Chinese man money. He don't never got to give us nothing. We giving Walmart money. He don't never got to give us nothing. Like all these things, we giving up money and we don't never got to get nothing back for free. So this is my own small way and my own, contribution to us, where I'm going to get these people to pay me so that I can educate you and help you go ahead and do what you need to do. So if you're looking for that, if you're looking for a good nonprofit to donate to, we are that. We are a 501c3 organization, and we're on the up and up, definitely. We are having a major function here in Las Vegas, September 24th, 23rd, and 24th. Because we definitely got to welcome everybody in that night. We're going to have a little, what they call it, a kickback back in the day. We're going to have something set up for everybody that come in on the 23rd. But 24th, get prepared for a Power Pack conference with some amazing people. You know, learn some stuff. We're gonna feed you real good, and just change your life. We've changed a bunch of lives, entrepreneurs, just regular people. So, and we're gonna have something for the kids too. We created another. My kids created their own nonprofit called Kids Won't Starve during the pandemic. Definitely helping education with kids, because again, places we didn't think about didn't have internet access to help out children and things of that nature. But the families had phones, and so because of our Facebook group, Kids Won't Starve, we were able to get teachers from all over the world to help put lesson plans up for their kids when they couldn't do anything for school. And we just kept it going. We created actually a little small daycare center for bigger kids, for people that was afraid to take their kids into the regular school because of COVID-19. So we was able to help 14 families and keep their kids there safely in our space that we have in Columbia, South Carolina.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, we want to thank you so much. Your story was so inspiring. Like you can really, like you, especially about like your people, like not really gravitating to, when you trying to come up and then they don't support, like we struggle with that. Like it's still the struggle now.
Yeah.
So
we gotta keep these conversations in the forefront.
Yes, definitely. And anything you need from us, please let us know. You need us to talk, whatever, just let us know.
Likewise, definitely. Yeah, I really appreciate you ladies, and I want to come up there. That's what I want to do. I want to come in the summertime. I know it's
right in the summer. Yes, definitely in the summer, because you will freeze. You will freeze.
I'm from Jersey, but I don't think Jersey got nothing on Minnesota though.
No.
But no, I'm looking forward to it though. I'm looking forward to keeping the relationship going.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for tuning in to Meet the Shoe.
No problem. Thank you, ladies.
Yeah. Bye-bye. You want to end it?
I ended it.